Hey gang, Scott here. So I've been doing a lot of black and white work, and with that comes dodging and burning. I've talked about dodging and burning quite a bit on the channel recently. I want to show you one more technique of dodge and burn, this time using curves. If you've got curves in your photo software and you've got masking to go with that curve, you have a powerful dodge and burn tool that is less painstaking than individual brush strokes with, say, an exposure slider, and you've got more control too. I'll show you this technique. I'm going to do this in ON1 Effects. That's where I happen to be in my workflow right now. And speaking of which, ON1 just released the Effects 2025 package, standalone or plug in to other photo editors. They're running a good promo on it right now. It's like half price, and I think it's like under $40 US. Give the promo code I have below a try too. That might save you a little extra money. I'm not sure if it's going to work with an already discounted price, but worth a shot. But anyway, let's talk curves. Let's talk masking with curves and do some dodging and burning here. So this photo's come along pretty well, and there's just a couple more things I want to do to it. In the right-hand side, the lower right area here, where there's the darker tones in the water, where like the white, whitewash in the surf isn't there, I want to darken that. And then for some of these accent splashes, like in this area here and here, I want to brighten those a little bit more. And I could try to just do some exposure adjustments and so forth, but I want to be more targeted with it. And so we're going to use curves. I'm going to zoom in over here and let's get that around there. Let me add a curve adjustment. And if you're not familiar with curves, I got tons of videos from the past library about how to use curves, how they work, what it's broken down. I'll link one of them here in this video. But I will use the curve control, and I will choose this picker and say, let me have like that tone there, and I clicked on this shadowy area. It put a point on the curve. That's what I want to adjust. I'm going to darken this. I'm going to pull the curve down, but I also like to put in some control points, and I'll choose something a little brighter. Make sure that put this point on the curve, and so I don't want that to go down. And just for good measure, we'll get a really bright point. When you get a couple of points close like that, it becomes kind of like an anchor. Now I can take this and pull it down, and you're going to see that surf, that darker surf, get darker. Okay, now that affected everything, right? Before, after. I only want it over here. That's where your masking comes in. So I'll open up the masking area in ON1, and in this case, I'll invert the mask. Then I have my paintbrush. Feather is good, opacity is good. I want to paint in. And I'll make the brush a little bit bigger, and I'll just start painting in. And you'll see that the surf is going to start getting, the darker parts where there's not whitewash, that's going to start getting darker. And I'm just being very lazy with my brush strokes. Let's turn on the red overlay, and I'll hit the O key. You can see this is where I'm painting, right? And we can kind of get out into this area here, and even some into the background there. And that's a very lazy looking mask, but because the curve is only affecting these lower midtones, when I turn that off and turn that on, you can see where the change is happening, and just giving a little more character, a little more contrast to just that deeper part of the surf. So this is the technique you can use to do dodging, burning with a curve, and you're leveraging the curve to just focus the adjustment, focus the attention on a certain tonal range. Now I'll use the curve to do this when I don't necessarily need such precision from, say, a luminosity mask, but I do also have a relatively large area to cover. I can be lazy with my brush stroke and then control with the curve. Now let's do one more. I mentioned these splashes over here. Let's go ahead and zoom in on these, put that right about there. Well, the wonderful thing about effects, I can add another curve. So I'll add a second curve. So I have the same curve control. I have these same options available to me. In this case, using my picker, like this lighter tone of gray, I want that. Let's pick something really dark. Don't want that to change. Something a little brighter. That's okay there. Protect those brights. And now raise this point. I want to make things brighter. Now, as I do this, I'm watching this one particular splash right there in the center because I know I'm going to do some masking work right after this. So paying attention to like this splash right here, before and after. Now there's a lot of brightening happening, right? I don't want it happening everywhere. We're back to our mask again. Got the mask option, invert, so now there's no adjustments happening whatsoever. Switch my brush over into paint mode, and let's go ahead and zoom back in, and then the B key to get that brush again. And then when I paint in, you'll see I'm just getting that brightness on the splash where I want it. And maybe for this one, I'll increase the feather up really large so I get a nice fade off on that, and work my way through other areas that I want to have accented with a little more brightness. So just kind of brushing through there, and you can see I'm really brushing, aggressively. I'm not being particularly careful about the brushing. Back to the B key again. Brush over this, get those little accents there, maybe up in here as well. Because the curve is limiting the impact to just these lower tones, in this case brightening them. And so now before and after, you can see where that pop is happening. So there's a couple of examples of using curves to do your dodging and burning. You get to be lazy with your brush strokes. You can control the tones that get affected with the curve itself. And if you've got a tool that has curves and have some way to mask that, whether you've got a mask on the curve control itself, or you've got layering where you can do layer masks to control where in your photo this gets applied, you've got this technique at your fingertips. Hope you found the video useful. Questions, drop them below. And until next time, my name's Scott Davenport. Have fun.